Make sure that you have, child development 107, chapter 2, right? Make sure that even if you're on the video, like the call, again, you don't have to have your video on, but your name has to be accurate. So, because what I will do, if there's somebody in here that's not on our roster, I will kick them out. Because we had that a couple of times where people were in here, not supposed to be in here. And as far as I know, they didn't pay for the class, they don't get to stay. Fair? Fair. So if you're just borrowing somebody else's device that has a different name on it, all you have to do to change your name is, I don't know what it's like on the phone, but on a desktop, you just hover around your picture. There's a little square with 3 dots. You click that once and it says you can rename yourself. Good. So if anybody else is asking you in different classes to do that as well. Okay, great. Okay, so I want to hear from you guys. How's it going? We had the first week with all the setup stuff, then we have week 1 with all the stuff. How were the notes for you? Because that's the biggest piece of anxiety for people is notes. Notes. If you didn't score a 10 or an 8 or a 9, then let's talk, right? Because 8, 9, and 10 just means you're real close, right? And the first week is, it's okay to not be like perfect all the time, but also the first time you do anything, you don't know. So far, so good. Elle says, okay, you don't know exactly what the teacher's looking for. That's why I try to put that rubric in there. Plus, like, think about it. If we're in child development and we're going to talk about kids' cognitive development, and maybe how many of you have been around a small child who was learning how to like tie their shoe, like a 3-year-old, 4-year-old, 5-year-old trying to tie their shoe. It takes like 1 or 2 times to teach them. And do we get mad at them the very first time, first 10 times, first 100 times? No, right? So same thing with adults. Like if you're new to something else, remember every class has its own culture. Every teacher has a different syllabus, a different style, and things like that. So I'm kind of lenient at the beginning is what I'm saying. But if it was like under like a 7, that means you're doing something way, way off. But most everybody did really, really well. Good. Again, anytime you have questions, the sample notes helped a lot. Good. I'm happy. I know it was confusing to some people because they're like, well, it's sort of the same. And like, yeah, but it's a different book. So let me show you our old book. I had our old book at home and I was like, why do I need this at home? So it's pretty gnarly. And so it's this online book that we have now instead has been kind of a blessing that way, that it's all in one spot and you don't have to buy a $170 book. Ooh. So that's our goal, is to get all our classes in this OER version. Heads up, your next class that you'll take after this is 110. We do not have that as an OER version. There is an OER version and it's horrific. So I tried to do that last semester and everybody in our department, we decided we're like, we're going back to the old real book, but we have books to borrow. And the Pathways to Teaching program has books to borrow. And with the $300 at the bookstore, we have books, right? We want to make sure that we're not just doing the free book because it's free, but we're doing the free book because it's good. Okay, so this class is free because it's good. In 110, we're like, once they will revise it. Once they revise it, and it's not so cringe, it was bad. Once they revise it, we might readopt it again, but we're trying to make everything cost effective for all the students. So notes were good. Yeah, and again, you know what? If you do it one way, 1 week, you don't have to do it the same way the next week. It's up to you. You could switch it up. If you're the week that you're like, you feel that creative itch and you want to do a mind map, do a mind map, right? Like however you want to do it. Again, I'm open to even a video, right? If you can get your video in there, there's a little tricky way to do it, but if you can get that in there, I'm okay with that. If you sit and like talk through, like have your book in front of you and you're like talking through it, this is what I got from this section. This is what I like. This is what I didn't understand. If you want to do like a verbal outline, I'm completely okay with that, because sometimes when we talk through things, we process differently, right? Right. And in that Secret to Your Success survey, it kind of hopefully got you guys to understand that there's different ways. Like we have different sides of our brain. We have our right side and left side. And then there's different ways that we tackle, learning. Most people are visual. But I always tell people, we actually are a mix of all three: visual, auditory, and kinesthetic. And so the visual obviously is using your eyes predominantly. Auditory is using your ears predominantly. And kinesthetic means like, it needs to be in my hands. I need to move it. You have to show me, I've got to do it. And so since this is an online class, the kinesthetic learners actually kind of get the shorter end of the stick. And so I suggest for you to listen to this video, maybe put it on while you're pacing, doing your Pilates, doing yoga, whatever, doing, fidgeting, whatever gets things into your body. Again, I've seen people, and I've done this myself. If I've taken one conference multiple times, sometimes I do that. I'll bring colored pencils and I'll try to like creatively create those notes instead of just the first time I had to see the slides. Second time, maybe I just listened to them. And the third time now I'm just being creative and scribbling using different parts of my brain. It helps get it in differently, right? And here's my last tip on learning modalities. If you are visual, or you are whatever you're predominant, if you're visual, you're auditory, you're kinesthetic, whatever your predominant is, figure out what your backup is, your kickstand. This helped me a lot in college. I'm a visual learner. I like colors and, presentations and the whole business. But sometimes I'm not getting it for whatever reason. Maybe I'm tired, maybe I'm stressed, maybe I'm distracted, maybe I'm worried about something else, or all of the above, right? And so if sometimes I close my eyes and I try to that's like give my backup a chance, sometimes it actually sinks in. So first time visual, if I'm like, what? I don't get it. Or maybe there's this thing where I don't know about you, you'll read the book and be like, what did I just read? I read a whole page. What did I just kind of go back and read that again? Because I was elsewhere. My brain was off. What I do sometimes is I audio record that page into my phone and play it back. And so I literally will close my eyes, block out the visual. And then as I hear it, I'm like, oh, okay, well, that makes sense. So it's kind of like giving yourself a second date on the same information. And honestly, the first time we learn anything, the first time something's thrown at us, that doesn't mean we learn it. It takes us multiple times, multiple exposures, multiple ways for our brain to actually connect to it. That's why I say, okay, notes, even if it's pretty basic and you get out your 2 pages or 4 pages or whatever, that's your first blush. That's your first intro. That's your first, did I skim the chapter? Did I spend 5 minutes looking through the module? Did I spend 10 minutes flipping through the reading? Did I, whatever worked for you? Then as you sit down and write some notes and some bullets, then you're like, okay, I saw this section. Now I'm writing notes on this section. Then, so that's a little bit more of this intro, the notes are the intro, right, to the class. Then when we get into the discussion board, it's like, okay, what did I learn and how does it apply a little bit to what we're doing here? Or it's an example, or it's an exercise of taking what we've learned and putting it together, right? And then we have the reflection. So your reflection is, okay, what did I learn? If I wrote down all this stuff and I did the discussion board and maybe even the quiz, what did I learn? What, seriously, if I put everything away and I had to describe chapter 1 or chapter 2 or any chapter to a layperson, somebody who's not in the class, somebody who says, really, you're taking child development? God, it's so easy. Okay. Really, we're talking about epigenetics. Oh, really? What's that? I've had other professors in biochem say, you guys talk about genetics? Well, we only talk about what babies are made of. Yeah. Just no, we just talk about toys and babysitting. No, talk about all the good stuff, right? So again, when you're doing the reflection, just put everything away and be like, what are the 5 sentences I could say about this chapter, right? The second part is, what else is out there about this chapter, right? So I mentioned epigenetics. I show you a video on epigenetics where there's a ton of stuff. Or maybe you're a twin, or maybe you have twins that run in your family and you could talk about that. How epigenetics will actually describe how twins can be genetically exactly the same, a clone, but also look and act differently, even if they're identical twins. Or fraternal twins, same thing. Now you have 2 different eggs at the same time, 2 different placenta. It's really fascinating. Or what about triplets? and there's a pair that's fraternal and one that's a pair that's identical and one that's fraternal, right? You can have triplets that are like two of one gender and one of the other at the same time. Mind blowing. Or, there's this thing where people freeze their eggs. So I had a student in my class a few years ago and said that he was like a soccer coach in Irvine. And there was this couple who was a little bit nervous about getting older and wanted to freeze eggs or whatever. But in the process, they're trying to get pregnant. They got pregnant, they had triplets, and they were a little bit spooked. They're like, uh-oh, well, if I have triplets, we don't know if we can handle that. So they literally took one embryo out and froze it. Yeah, which is amazing. I've been through infertility, so I see how it's amazing. The science is just amazing. But so they had this set of twins, right? So then 2 years later, they decided to reimplant. So in Irvine, there's a family who has a set of triplets that are 2 years apart. Right. So these things are like, so again, what else is out there for talking about genetics? Let's say that's the topic. Go find me an article, a TED Talk, a podcast, something that's legitimate. In fact, maybe I should do that. There is a little checklist called the CRAP test that says like, how legitimate is this source? Is People magazine like a legitimate source? I'm gonna go with no. TMZ is not a legitimate source. The American Journal of Pediatrics is a legitimate source. So I'm gonna do that. And maybe I'll make this as extra credit. So if you guys do this, you'll know, yeah, you know what, I'll do this. Some people are already asking me for extra credit. So I might put this, I have an exercise that talks about what's the difference between fact and opinion, what is true, what is not true, and then like finding a legitimate source for something to share. So again, on the reflection, the first part is, what did I learn? Second part is, what else is out there? Okay. This does two things. It helps you connect from the book to the real world and back. It does something else too. And it shows me where your head's at. And it also shows me stuff that I haven't seen before, because I can't possibly know everything and see everything, but what you guys share is pretty rad. And if it's that good, I will share it in the module with like the next semester. So you guys are co-creating the class for future generations. Yeah, really cool. Last part of the reflection is, how will I use this information in my life today, in my life in the future? Am I going to be a parent, a teacher, not a parent, never a teacher? However, how are you going to use this? Does it help you at your job at Target? Does it help you when you volunteer at Sunday school? Whatever. Tell me. Because again, if you're interested in something, you're interested in it for a reason. And if it doesn't have a practical application to your life, then why are we doing it? No, none of us have time to like do extra stuff for funsies. I mean, like, hobbies are great. I have a few hobbies. But like doing extra work, I don't believe in busy work. Right? No, you need to get something out of it. And if you've seen my format, that's what, so what, now what? That's kind of what we're shifting to. So what are we doing? What? Notes. So what? The discussion board. And now what? The reflection. Makes sense? What are we talking about? So what about it? Now what about it? So we're moving to that format a little bit, because if it doesn't apply, why are we doing it? I have such an issue with, like, let's say in the future, some of you are going to get your teaching credential and they make you put together this portfolio. Look, every single one of my teacher friends that says I put my portfolio together, was stressed out about it, and nobody's ever asked me to see it ever. Now my question is, why are we doing it? Can we do something more meaningful or do it digitally so we're not? Anyways, so that's just a piece here. I'm trying to make you guys more efficient, work smarter, not harder. Makes sense? Okay, cool. And so how's that quiz? Pretty easy, yeah? Yeah, 5 true, false, 5 multiple choice. Again, everybody should be getting a 10 out of this. You can do it as many times as you want. You can take as long as you want. Again, that is almost like the bookend to each module. It's like, now that you've done all these pieces, been active in your own style, learn the information, watch the videos, took some notes, reflected, found some new resources. At the end, there's a quiz. Just kind of bookends it. Okay. So how does it feel like to do the work? Now that we've done chapter 1 and we're moving into chapter 2, how's the workload? How many hours does it take you to get everything done? Like 2, 4, 6? I'd love to hear a vote. Let me see. Put in the chat or just say it out loud. 2, 4, 6, 12, 21, 20 minutes. I can see how long it takes to do the quiz. Oh, okay, 3-ish. Katie says 3-ish. Is everybody like around 3, 4, 2? And it's okay. Some people take longer. If you don't want to out yourself that way, that's cool with me. Okay, 4 or 5. I think that's fair. Yeah. Because again, we're still new to the class. You're new to this professor. You're new to this topic. Sometimes getting it into your schedule takes a while. I get it. I call it the hamster wheel. We all have this all schedule that we do every day and every week. And then to add something in there, it's like, ooh. But notes took almost a whole day, but everything else like 3 hours. Fair. That's fair. Because you don't want to, you're not ever going to look back on your book. Like I have a few books from grad school or whatever, but I don't look on it because everything's on the internet now, right? But you may every once in a while be like, hey, I have these notes. I remember we talked about this. And your niece is like, or nephew is like 4, and you're like, oh my gosh, check this out, this cognitive, yeah. Or I remember this term from my notes, and let you, tell people about this. It's really kind of cool stuff. Yay. Okay, good. Because if people you're telling me it's taking me 10 hours to do, that is excessive. 10 is like too much, definitely. I would say 6 tops. If you're spending 6 tops, that is the I would say, yeah. So if it takes a whole day to do notes, that's okay. Spend the most time on the notes for sure. Okay, good. So heads up, we're in chapter 2, chapter 3, right? We are in chapter 2, right? Chapter 3, after chapter 3, we have an exam. It's not that hard. It's like, think of the quiz, just bigger, right? So the quiz is 10 points, the exam is 50. However, I put an extra little credit 5 points in there. Yeah. So again, you're going to have not 5 true false like a quiz, but you'll have 10. And then for multiple choice, you'll have 10. And I'm very specific about it. I used to, when I first started teaching, I love everything about genetics. Oh, hold on 1 sec. Let me mute this. Sorry, that was the dean's office. I was like, hi, I'm lecturing right now. Anyways, so what was it? Oh, I was saying when I first started teaching, I love certain things. I love epigenetics, genetics, family patterns, heredity, things like that. Attachment. I love attachment. So all my questions were around the stuff that I loved. That's not fair. It's not fair. That's not like, I would skip a whole chapter because I would put all these extra questions about attachment and stuff like that. And so now I say if there's 10 multiple choice and there's 3 chapters, I'm literally doing 3 per chapter plus maybe 1 extra. So 2 chapters have 3 multiple choice and 1 chapter has 4 multiple choice. See, so if you take a step back and say, we have this whole chapter. And if you had so if when we were in face-to-face classes, I have you guys, we do an activity where everybody writes test questions and we share, right? If you were going to write 10 true false questions out of this entire unit, that's not a lot. So am I going to ask you when Freud was like born and when he died? Nope. Am I going to ask you the big stuff? Like, what's the name of his theory? Yes. How many stages in his theory? 8. How many, like that kind of stuff? Yeah. I'm going to ask you the big stuff, the takeaway stuff. So don't get too freaked out or get in the weeds about it. Because remember, you can use your book. You have unlimited chances and you have unlimited time. So my suggestion is always go through the test the first time without the book. See how much you know. And guess what? If you get a 10 out of 50, who cares? Go back and do it and get a 20 out of 50. And then do it again and get a 30 out of 50. And next time get a 40 out, right? Make sense? Yeah. So people kind of like, I'm saying challenge yourself in the way that you do it. Right. And again, if the quizzes take you 7 minutes to do, and the test is 5 times longer, so give yourself 30 minutes to an hour to maybe 2 hours to do a test. It's not going to cut you off. Take your time, work with a friend. You guys can do it. You guys can do your own Zoom. You guys can do FaceTime on your phones. You can do on Pronto. You guys can have your own rooms on Pronto, on video calls on Pronto. It's up to you. Just don't write the same essay. That's plagiarism. Yeah, makes sense. And so I'm very specific about, like, even when after you do your true false and multiple choice, there's like a matching. I like to do by the numbers, like at what age does a child do this, or how many, here's a hint, how many sperm does it take to fertilize an egg? Right? Right. And so, yeah, just the one. And so things like that. So I try to do a matching one that's kind of easy, but it's over, the matching one is over all the chapters in the unit. You know, it's not just one chapter. And then the essay question, I rely heavily on your opinion. Your opinion. So I'm going to give you guys a hint since you guys are here. You know what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause the recording so the people who are not live aren't getting the sneaky snake. On. So I'm going to give you guys like a hint, some strong hints on the essay question. So hold on. These are recording. So I know not everybody can come to the meetings live, but I'm not gonna hold that information hostage. If somebody's watching this recording and you really want that tips and tricks that I just gave the live gallery, email me. This tells me who's watching. Okay. It's not like click here and subscribe. It's like, hey, email me if you want the 411 early on what's that essay question on the exam. And I'm pretty straightforward about it. I'll say, like, make sure you give me 3 paragraphs and each paragraph starts this way or covers this, or you can use these words. I'm pretty, we use the word scaffolding or training wheels. I'm pretty training wheels on essay because I know most people don't like it. You can also, what I'll do is at the beginning of next week when we open chapter 3, I will open the exam like by Wednesday. You can take that essay question out of the exam, cut and paste it onto a Word document, work on it for a couple of days, take it to the writing center. I put it in the instructions. You may take this to the writing center. Sometimes the writing center will be like, oh, that's cheating. No, it says right there in the instructions. They can also contact me, the whole business. Because remember, even though it's 10 points for an essay, I can give like 15. So you have your extra credit there. And then there's like an extra credit, little kicker, like 5 points. And then it kind of is an extension of the first essay. Or it'll say like something about like, based on the theory that you chose, X, Y, and Z. So it's a little bit more of an application, but it's shorter. So everybody does really well when they take the time to do it. I can tell who's not taking the time when it'll show me how many times you took it, which is cool, right? You only have to write the essay once. That's another question people get. Do I have to write the essay? If I took the test 3 times, I have to write the essay 3 times. No, it'll show me all your different, and I'll scroll through until find that one essay and get all the scores on one. So you get the highest score. Yeah. And if for some reason I forget that, or I missed it, just remind me, I'll go back and score it. It's no big deal. I will give you all the points that you deserve. I promise. Yeah. Cool. All right. So let's hop into, let's see, anybody here? Oh, okay. So Al had a question about where do we find the recording. So what I do is this day, I have to like transpose it, put it into YouTube, put a header on it, and then I put it at the top of the module. So let me show you what it looks like from last week. Okay, so our modules, good, hopefully. So let me go here. All right, so nope, not 6. So in module 1, I put it here. Did I put it here? I think I put it here. Nope, not that one. That's that we are reading. I think I put it maybe, I put it into introduction maybe. Oh, wait, hold on. Where did I put it? Maybe I didn't put it. Let me start with the intro and go forward. Oh, maybe that's where I normally put it. And that's so weird that I didn't do that. Maybe I put it in the wrong class. Yeah, I think I put it in the wrong class. So to answer your question, and I will make sure it's there today. What do you guys, I'll let you guys vote. Put it in the introduction or put it in the intro to reading. I normally put it in the introduction. Oh, you know what? Maybe I'm in the wrong class. I am in the wrong class. That was the class that started earlier. Let's look at our class. Okay, let's see. Yes, this is the new class. So let me double check where I put it. So for our intro Zoom meeting, I put it in here with the course information. I put the intro Zoom meeting here. For this class, I put it in here, chapter 1 walkthrough. So that takes you right to the YouTube video. And I am not going to watch myself. This is I'm doing the same thing. Does that make sense? Let's show you what the whole module looks like. So I put it right at the top, right at the top. So some people can hit that on their phone and just like be doing their thing and watch that. Then the intros the whole thing, and then it breaks it down into each section. So today I'll put it right on top of here. Good? Good. Yeah. Very cool. So yeah, anytime you see this kind of this chain thing, that's a link. Anytime you see a paper here, that's just a page. Anytime you see kind of a paper with a pencil, that's a assignment. A paper clip is just a document. These two little speak bubbles is a discussion board. A little rocket is a quiz. And then same thing with the rocket comes the test. Yeah. So here, so chapter 2, let's do a quick little walkthrough here. Chapter 2 is kind of shorter, but it's a little bit more technical. Yeah. I try to make all my headers cohesive. I like to color this class green just because to me it's green and growing, and it's the front part of the week. So again, welcome to chapter 2. Here's the learning goals. This is what we're doing all week. We only have 2.1 and 2.2. So short reading, but more, you still got to get those notes good. So that means you're going to be doing more technical notes, more detailed notes on shorter reading. Okay, this is the link to chapter 2 on LibreText. And again, once you click it to LibreText, you have access to all the books in LibreText, but this just takes you right to chapter 2. So now this, again, the author of this book creates her own PowerPoints and a PDF, right? And she has a short little video on it too. Again, she's a mom of twins, and she shares a lot of that stuff too, which is so sweet. So there's a lot to learn from somebody who's not only an expert in the field, but somebody who's like doing it, you know, it's like a boy-girl twin situation, and she's like day to day. It's great to learn from people who not only know it from a book, but know it from real life. And so I added these videos to make this chapter come to life. Okay, so again, nature versus nurture is a huge debate. So again, I will be asking you questions around that, but nature versus nurture is like, are you because of your nature, what you're born with, your genetics, or are you who you are because of your surrounding upbringing? This class is mostly nature, our genetics, who we are in our body, in our cognition, and in our emotions. So we have those 3 domains: our physical, our cognition, our thinking, and our feelings, right? Our body, our brain, our feelings, okay? This class is mostly nature, like what we come to the table with. When you come take 110, it's all about nurture. It's like, okay, so you look like this, your genetics look like this, but when you were 4, your parents split up, and or your dad was deployed, or your mom is a surgeon and you never see her, blah, blah, blah. Excuse me. So again, nature says you are who you are because of how you were born, your blueprint. But that blueprint can change and grow based on your environment. So epigenetics explains a lot of that. Really, really cool. And I like these whiteboard things. I'm one of those professors that if I can find a whiteboard on it, so cool. Again, I'm visual. And so if visual is not your thing, just close your eyes and listen. Yeah. Also, I embedded these. So once you click on it, it takes you to YouTube. I look at it like you shouldn't have to run Canvas to see these. And so that's why I embedded them versus a link. And again, some people, again, different devices. The difference between a chromosome and DNA and RNA and things like that, very cool. And then mitosis versus meiosis, it's a rap battle. I couldn't help it. It's still cool. I'll give you a hint. Mitosis is how cells duplicate, and meiosis is how we create humans. That sorry to spoiler alert. Think of me as a human being, and meiosis as how we split chromosomes into make. And so half of the sperm and half the egg then come back together and make a human being. Yeah. Oh, darn it. This one's not available. Let me see if I can find something better. So I apologize if that happens, because again, I'm sharing these videos, but I'm not the owner of those videos. Genetic disorders. This is an very, very interesting one, because there are, as we learn, as a human is being developed, there are things that can make a human not be developed. That's a nice way of saying, even when women are pregnant, there's multiple miscarriages that we don't even know about, because there was some sort of catastrophic translation error in the DNA or the genes or something wasn't right, you know. And again, this is kind of a good thing, because to this day, childbirth, and we'll learn in chapter 3, childbirth is still not 100% risk-free. Even in a hospital, you could still lose a mom and a baby, or just the mom or just the baby. It's frightening. But genetic disorders are very, very, they're rare, but they're natural. And that's a hard concept for people to understand, is that Down syndrome it happens. It's just an extra chromosome. So this XY creates, this is how we know this is a male or a female. XY is a male. But what happens with Down syndrome, they have an extra chromosome. That's why it's called trisomy. So genetic disorders can happen that you can see. With Down syndrome, you can see that. They have similar features. My aunt was Down syndrome, so I'm very familiar with that. But there's genetic disorders that you can't see, like cystic fibrosis. I carry the recessive gene for cystic fibrosis. I do not have cystic fibrosis. If my husband had that recessive gene and we both had a child together, then that child would have a 25% chance of having cystic fibrosis. Another reason why we adopted. But then I have a kid with a bunch of other genetic disorders. His mom died of a brain aneurysm at 40, and his brother at 31 had a stroke. So we know there's some sort of genetic issue there. So again, you birth them or you buy them, you're going to get some sort of genetic blip. But just keep in mind, when I keep saying genetic disorders, they are natural. Even a butterfly, for every time a butterfly is created, a butterfly can be created with different colors, right? And that's how we get more than one species. Do you guys know that a polar bear is actually a black bear that mutated? A polar bear has black skin, white fur. It mutated so it could survive in the north. Dimples are a mutation. Blonde hair is a mutation. Blue eyes is a mutation. Green eyes is a mutation. Any blip of color, like David Bowie had 2 different color eyes, mutation. We're all kind of mutants in a way, but sometimes you can see it, sometimes you can't. So people really freak out about genetic disorders. I'm like, hey, you don't even know what you don't even know, right? We can isolate certain genes for the BRCA gene for breast cancer, alcoholism. There's a bunch of other genes that can be identified, and some can't. They're still learning things every day, right? I like SciShow. This is a big resource for me, SciShow. Epigenetics is great. He does talk a lot about twins, and that divergent studies. But also this guy right here, he's got a really cool TikTok channel. And so I think his name Hank something or other, I forget. Again, here's ancestral ghosts in your genome. I don't normally share TED Talks, but it's interesting. It's very, very interesting. So again, for what you're learning here, let me see if I can find this one about alleles, genotype, and phenotype. What they're saying is that alleles is how you pair up what is dominant, the blonde hair, the brown hair. In my family, my brother and sister have dark skin, brown eyes, brown hair. And my little sister looks a little bit more like me. And so we have Eastern European, like Hungarian side, and we've got a German side. Well, guess what? There's 4 kids in our family. 2 of them look like my mom and 2 look like my dad. It's pretty like we are the genetic little milkshake, right? But genotype is all your genes. Like if we could map out genes, and phenotype is the photograph, how it presents, right? So you could say my phenotype is the blonde hair, blue-eyed German Irish side. And my sister and brother, their phenotype is the dark hair, like darker, like olive skin, like Eastern European side. Yeah, so really kind of cool that, again, our alleles, genotype and phenotype come together. And then it's the ones you can see is like a photograph phenotype. The ones you can't see is your genes. You don't see it in my gene sequence. You don't see cystic fibrosis on me. It's in there, but you don't see it on me. So this I like, again, I'm super fascinated. I'll see if I can update that video. Next is 1.2, which I'm sorry, 2.2 prenatal development. This again, now once we get all the science in our heads, now what is actually happening in this prenatal development here? Again, she has 3C Media. This is one of my favorite videos. This is like a cartoon of how like the one sperm wins, but it's a sample, so it's like it'll say sample use only. This one is super fat. I put Khan Academy because I can't embed Khan Academy, but human fertilization and early development. It's kind of like literally, you know how they do it, kind of like a class on a blackboard, on like a black glass board. Kind of fun. This building a baby first 2 weeks will blow your mind. What actually happens in the first 2 weeks that a woman becomes pregnant, and oftentimes does it? No. I have plenty of friends who got pregnant in college, and you know, that weekend we were in Vegas, you know, so there's a lot of things that happen before we even know, right? Psychology Locked does a 3 stages of prenatal development, which is GEF, germinal, embryonic, and fetal. The secret life of the brain. This is so fascinating. This is PBS. I try to share the things that are free. I won't ever share anything that you have to pay for, like Netflix or HBO or anything like that. Here's more SciShow, Beyond Identical and Fraternal, rare types of twins, love it. And then teratogens. This is huge. This is pretty graphic. It's not like you're going to see like blood or guts or anything like that, but you're going to see children whose mother drank. And all these children, see with their eyes, they're lidded. There's a really wide nose right here, a really flat frenulum right here. See, even though they're different ethnicities, you're going to see a pattern of alcohol, what alcohol does to a developing fetus. Yeah, and I don't know if you can see this, but this is, I have a super teeny tiny picture of my son when he was in the hospital. And you can't really tell because he was 3.5 pounds when he was born. So let's see if I can share this picture with you guys. I don't know if I don't know if you can see it. Yeah, okay. So this is just his little face. Let's see if I can get it closer. This is just his little face. And that tube was for feeding because he couldn't bottle feed. So 3.5 pounds is about the size of your Dasani bottle. If you have a Dasani bottle, or he fit basically between my wrist and my elbow. His diapers were not even like the size of a maxi pad. So you can see you can sort of see the flat nose, the flat here. I mean, I have a flat here too, right? But the flat nose, and you can kind of see his hooded eyes. So yeah, my son was most likely exposed to alcohol. Here's an older picture. See the hooded eyes? It is so crazy. It's in a frame. You can't even tell it's in a frame. You see the flat nose, the flat upper lip. Thankfully, his IQ is not indicative of fetal alcohol syndrome, but his IQ is not 100. You know, normally these kids who are remarkably affected by alcohol, their IQ is more like 60, which is considered mentally disabled. We usually say intellectually disabled now. And so I'm not saying it's one beer, you know. These kids here, their mom could have been drinking the whole time. Now, mind you, like in Europe, a little bit of red wine here and there is okay for a pregnant woman. Even in like Ireland, they tell pregnant women, have your Guinness a day, because there's the, sorry, my family accent just came out just a it's right there. Sorry. Have your Guinness a day. So you can have your vitamins. Oh, sorry. And so this whole piece about teratogens, these are basically toxins that can be hopefully avoided. Now, not all toxins can be avoided. A lot can, right? Obviously alcohol and drugs, right? And so alcohol, we have a lot of information of what alcohol does to a developing fetus, but we don't know what other things do to a developing fetus. So we don't typically, like if we were going to do some research on it, right? We get a group of people and research it. Normally you don't see like a call for research subjects. Hey, are you on meth and pregnant? That's, it's like unethical in a way, because a lot of times when there is a research study, there's a benefit, meaning like they pay the subjects or they give them a bus pass or something. So saying, hey, are you on meth and pregnant? We want to study you, sometimes makes people say, hey, I'm pregnant, let me take meth so I can go to this. So it's unethical. We don't really do those things. But when you have a child after they're born and you can see, kind of do this backwards longitudinal stepping to where, oh, this was alcohol or this was drugs. My son was most likely exposed to narcotics like oxy, that kind of stuff. Again, we don't know what that does. We don't even know what weed does to developing fetus. And now that weed is legal, which, hey, that's cool. But it's just a little bit more accessible to, you know, and then we had COVID. And so people are stressed and they're smoking more dope. We might see some children who might have the after effects of that in this whole generation. We don't know. So again, learn about teratogens, because yeah, it's hard. It's hard. There's a lot of things we know what smoking does to a developing fetus, and we don't smoke, don't drink, don't do drugs while you're pregnant, but that doesn't necessarily say the whole story. It's a lot more complicated than that. But please watch that one. It's just, and then this is our regular growth chart on when things are developed, and look how small they are. Look at right here, not susceptible to teratogens. This, when it's just these tiny little cells, not susceptible to teratogens, meaning it's a separate entity. Once it starts to embed into the embryo, into the placenta, then it starts to share the mother's blood. Once it starts to share the, so again, this first week or two, if you were in Vegas or you were on spring break, it's fine. The baby's fine. Baby's fine. Baby's fine. But once it starts connecting to the mother's blood supply, it's going to eat everything you eat. It's going to taste everything you taste. And then you're going to see right here, the heart is developing here between 6 and 8 weeks. Women can have their period for like 2 or 3 months and still be pregnant and maybe be doing some drugs and alcohol. So we don't know. So it's right here, major morphological abnormalities. If the baby is not progressing, then it will stop progressing. And sometimes the body will clean out, or you will have to have a medical procedure to help clean out. Again, this will tell you right here with like, if there's a teratogen introduced and the upper limbs or lower limbs are being developed, maybe you're going to have something wrong with the baby in that regards. Eyes all the way up to birth, central nervous system all the way up to birth, teeth all the way up to birth. Yeah, developing teeth. Some babies are born with teeth. Yeah. External genitalia. So the inside parts, like the eggs and the ovum, are already being built, but the external parts, like the topography or the penis and things like that, that is all being built these last few months right here. The ear, oof, wow, yeah. So there's a lot of things happening here. Like, again, we talk about environment, nature versus nurture. Nurture is the environment. How the environment affects fertility. Caffeine, stress, domestic violence, war. There's women right now in war-torn Europe who are pregnant and trying to flee. So how does that affect a pregnancy? It does. And not just the mothers and their babies, but we're going to learn what epigenetics, that grandparents and the mothers and their babies. Wait, how your grandparents, how your grandmother was stressed out affects who you are today? Yeah. So watch these videos, are super fantastic. High risk pregnancy, we're seeing a lot more high risk pregnancies due to stress, high blood pressure, any of those teratogens, any other environmental factors, common pregnancy complications. And again, a lot of complications are avoidable, but also treatable. So no freaking out. Rh factor, this is a big deal. If you know your blood type, you either O positive, O negative, or A positive, A negative, AB positive, AB negative, things like that. How that, and you could have a baby who has a different Rh factor than you, and there's some complications there if we don't look at it at the right time. Both the mother and the baby could become ill. Like, it's almost like putting diesel in a regular gas car. Like, can it work? Will it mess up the engine? Yeah, don't do that. So it's kind of like that. So watch that one. Pregnancy and the role of fathers, super important, super important. Again, we have fathers who really take it very seriously and they get them cravings too, and they gain weight too. It's really, really sweet. But again, sometimes even if you're not with the father's presence can really be helpful, right? Any sort of support is important. And then we did talk about assisted reproductive technology, like ART. That's ART is the big term, but we could say IVF, like in vitro fertilization. The turkey baster is called something else. You could just take Clomid pills. You can do all kinds of, but there's all these different steps, right? And then and ask yourself why, like Mariah Carey and like J-Lo have twins. This stuff right here. And then surrogacy is it just like adoption? Yes and no. Yes and no. So again, I'm a huge super duper fan of adoption, even though we have a lot of challenges with my child, but I look at it like with my genetic makeup, I could have had a child with just as many, or if not worse, like genetic challenges, right? So to me, you birth them, you buy them, you kind of don't know what you're going to get, right? Again, my grandparents didn't know they were going to have a child with Down syndrome, right? Down syndrome doesn't just happen to older parents. It can happen to young parents as well. It's just a blip. Or you have a child with a rare brain disorder or heart disorder or blood disorder. It happens. It happens. So people kind of get really freaked out about like mutations and things like that. And so they happen. And either we rise to the occasion or we don't, right? And so even though this chapter is really small, there's a lot. There's a lot. This is the science of humans. Okay, so you guys got the notes. Good. And make sure that the rubric's correct. This one is super fun. This discussion board, you guys get to play genetics. I usually get feedback on this one that everybody really likes this one. It's called the cracker baby. So you're going to take literally two crackers, and you are going to pretend those two crackers are parents. Take your two favorite crackers. What did I have yesterday? I had chicken and a biscuit and Doritos. But you're going to take the features of each one and you're going to make a new cracker. Yeah. So again, I got this exercise from the chair of our department, Dr. Lamarelle. When you take diversity, teaching and diversity, you'll take her as a teacher. So you're going to take these two very different crackers, a Triscuit that has a square with lots of textures. Peyton is on a big Triscuit kick right now. And a Ritz cracker round with scalloped edges as parents. So those are examples. Don't use my example. Use your own. Describe and name your cracker based on the contributors to the cracker baby. Combine the characteristics from each parent as if they were dominant and recessive genes and traits. Read the chapter, watch the videos. Submit a drawing, post a picture, not a link, please, of your cracker babies explaining their dominant. You could draw it. You could, get creative with it, right? Give a short description. So I put dominant traits versus recessive traits. So straight edges. So like, again, if faced with straight edges or scalloped edges, the dominant feature is the straight edges, right? But every once in a while, you'll have the scalloped edges come out. And that's okay. You get to pick. Super fun. Square shape is dominant, but round shape. So you could have one cracker that's all of these recessive traits, because that happens. Yeah. Or they could have all of these dominant traits. So again, dominant straight edges, a square, thick, flat, dark brown, name on the cracker, texture to no holes. And the recessive is scalloped, brown, thin, textured, light brown, name on the cracker, like Ritz, right? And then holes. You guys get what I'm saying? Super cute. I give you examples here. So here's mine. So Mama Triscuit and Daddy Ritz are pleased to welcome baby Triscuit Ritz, who was born on Labor Day. Ha ha. Just like mommy, baby Carrie, so I call her Carrie. Carrie Cracker has straight edges, but just like Daddy, she has tiny holes throughout. The best part about the baby is that she's neither square nor round, but oval and is light brown. Oh, so in between these two things, but also here on this recessive trait. And so then you put your picture here. Unfortunately, baby Carrie Cracker did experience a few challenges like pregnancy complications, chapter term, as she did not have enough time in the oven and came out prematurely, just like mine. This may be because the oven light blew out due to stress, and the new oven light may have leaked harmful toxins, teratogens, during the last trimester. Thankfully, Daddy Ritz's paternal influence has a good job with good health insurance, environmental, because what if the baby doesn't have a good health insurance? or the baby was born at home with no medical. That's okay. But again, you know, maybe there was a complication, the doctor wasn't there. So again, you guys get to come up with any of these dimensions you want. So baby Carrie was able to spend more time in the NICU under bright lights to develop her color. An early cracker test showed that the recessive trait of saltlessness was not present, and baby Carrie is expected to join her happy parents in their box soon. So please, you guys are going to come up with a couple of chapter terms here to support your story. And that's it. You don't have to come up with like 2 like short little stories. So hit reply and get your first one in there by Wednesday. I do block it to where people can only have to do your first post first before you see other people's posts, because I don't want you to copy, right? No copy, right? And I know somebody put theirs in here, but I don't want to like show it off either. So again, in this part, I want to bring to your attention to how to discuss with your peers. Make sure that you're discussing with your peers, and don't be like, yay, yours is so cute. Like, make it a little bit more in depth. Maybe more like, I like how you identified this, or you use that term. You be collegiate about it instead of like it being an Insta story or a Twitter reply, you know, kind of situation. Does that make sense? And now that you guys are here on the call, you can ask questions about it, because I do get a few people who do ask, well, what about this? And what about that? This is your chance to play like genetic doctor. So what do you think? Anybody want to share their favorite cracker before we end the call? Favorite cracker? What's your favorite cracker of all time? Just pick one. Katie, you have a little person. Oh my goodness.
She woke up.
Who is that?
It's Paisley.
Hi. You said Paisley?
Yeah.
Hi, pumpkin.
Just put herself on mute.
Oh my God, she's so cute. Let me guess.
Thank you.
Let's see. Not walking yet. So maybe about 6 months, 8 months.
10 months. 10 months today.
Yay, 10 months today. Okay, so I said not walking yet, but crawling really fast and trying to pull up and trying to stand. Yeah.
Oh, doing it all. Yeah.
And then you know what? I hope she, because sometimes they learn how to walk and then it's like running. You're like, wait a minute, what happened to walking? Like, we just wanted to walk. I just wanted you to walk. And they're like, oh yeah, I spent 4 weeks doing that and now I'm running. You're like, and then after that, it's climbing. You're like, how did you get on the dinner table? How did that? They're so fast. I would wake up and put on my tennis shoes. I was like, boom, 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 tennis shoes. Like, I'm not so much anymore because I have a teenager, but I always share. Oh my God, she's so precious.
Thank you.
Oh my God, that's sweet. So yeah, this is gonna be a great like application. So again, who wants to share their favorite cracker of all times? I went old school with the chicken and biscuit. It was really good with guacamole for some reason. I've never had that before. Anyone else? Favorite cracker? You guys can use like chips like Takis and stuff. That would be kind of interesting. Like the blue Taki with like a saltine cracker. It'd be fantastic. Any other questions? So after the discussion board, I'm going to go real fast back here, down here. Then we have the journal. Again, 3 parts. Reflect on what you've learned, find an additional resource. And so what will you do with this information? Right? I know for us, when you have your own biological child, you can say, oh, like, I was really into music. And so I see this musical ability in a child. For us, we don't get that, but we in his environment can introduce him to music. And so we have, and he loves music. He's just not as naturally talented. He loves music. He just he's getting there. Let's just say he's getting there. Where his dad and I were just a lot more naturally gifted in them. It was just easier for us. To me, the love of music is a love of music. So yes, he's got multiple guitars, and I just bought an electronic drum set because I used to play drums, and so I'm exposing him to drums with headphones. Thank God it's electronic, and so he can bash, and I don't have to hear all of it. Anyway, so when you see your genetics show up in your child, it's a lovely thing. but there's also a gift that occurs when they give you something new. They give you something new. Okay, so again, with our quiz, it's pretty straightforward. And then the summary. Yeah, that's just like, hey, read me. Yeah, so that's a module. Again, shorter, but deeper. Shorter, but deeper. More science this time. So cool beans, cool beans. Okay, lastly, before we go, I wanted to give you guys a heads up. I wanted to give you guys a heads up on an event that I know our spring break, maybe you might not want to hear this, but our spring break. Oh, Edith said Cheez-Its. Oh yeah, Cheez-Its rule. Oh my gosh, now they have like Cheez-Its Mega and Cheez-Its Baked and blah, all that stuff. Yeah. I wanted to bring you guys your attention to an event that we are having at the OC Fair. It's called Imaginology. It is at the last part of spring break. I will be sending out a flyer later. I'm just going to give you guys a heads up right now. And the fair is happening this year, which is so cool. I enter every year, so I got to look at what I am going to enter. Anyway, so we have April 9th and 10th. It's the Saturday, Sunday. Imaginology is a maker fair. It's a STEAM and science fair, and it's free. If you want to come, great. If you don't want to come, great. It's free. It's $10 to park. It's like the fair, just with the indoor sections without really the rides, but there is some of the fair food there. So it's all about STEM and things like that. And there's competitions, and we're going to have some tables there, and we're going to be having some fun stuff for young kids there. So come by and visit. I will be asking for volunteers to work a shift, and I have like free passes to park. So that's really exciting. That's what the dean's office called about. Hey, come pick up this contract. I was like, yes, that means we got approved. So I'm really excited. So again, they can enter. There's events. Like again, this looks like you can't really see it here. These are some of the competitions. These art projects, these cardboard projects, So again, you can enter a child in it. There's activities there. There's resource. There's all kinds of stuff. So we'll have a booth. We talk about our child development stuff, and we're going to be focusing on sensory play. We're going to have like a light cube. We're going to have like my nice carpet out for kids to play. We're going to have like sound tubes. We're going to make glitter bottles and things like that. So mark your calendars for April 9th and 10th. And then also looking way ahead, in May, we are having an open house here at SEC, and I'll be asking for volunteers again. May 13th, I believe. It's a Friday night. It's an open house. And so we'll have a section, I believe, near or down by the Child Development Center. And we'll be doing like bubbles, and we'll be doing sensory bottles and all kinds of fun stuff. But the whole campus is open, and most every classroom will have some sort of like something that they showcase from their department, or something fun, or an activity, things like that. A couple years ago, it was Dino Palooza. We were supposed to have it last year, and it was canceled. So we're really excited to have this. So mark your calendar. So April 9th and 10th is for Imaginology. It is the end of spring break. I will be there on Saturday and Sunday. On Sunday, if you come, you'll see my teenager. And then on May 13th, we're going to have an open house for SEC. So really excited. So question in the chat. Yay. I'm trying to get out and about, trying to get us more out into the community. Plus Imaginology, I've been taking my kid there since he was like 6. And so it's an amazing event. And there's like, again, competitions and agriculture, and you get to see little kids and big kids, and they have drone races and all kinds of super fun. So it's super awesome. So I'll keep you guys posted, but I just wanted to share that with you way ahead of time. Cool. All right, 11:21. Any questions, comments, concerns? Okay, again, my goal is to get all the grading done before spring break. I'm also going to start rolling out next week the assignments that are on the syllabus. A couple of them are a little bit late, but we're just going to push the due dates back. And I'm trying to separate everything out so it's not as overwhelming at the end. That's the point. Because after next week's chapter, you're going to have an exam, go to spring break, and then when you come back, we're going to start doubling up chapters. It's going to get a little hairy. So I do want to give you guys some things to work on over spring break if you want to. It's not required. This campus is closed. I will not be answering emails. Just do what you can do, and I'll do what I can do, and then we'll come back when we come back. Fair? Sounds good? But we still have one more week and then an exam. In fact, maybe next week we'll do a little closer to an exam walkthrough. Maybe I'll look at the exam and then give you guys hints what to look up before you start the exam, even though you have your book. Sound good? Sound good? All right. I appreciate your time, Natalie, Rowan, Edith, Miguel, Nicole, Elle, Katie. Thank you for sharing your little person. Katie, that's so great. Always. Yeah. And even when we had like face-to-face classes, I was like, yeah, bring your kids in. I'm cool. At any age. I had my kid in class a couple times and he was a handful. I was like, but listen, a lot of you were like, oh, I want to be a special needs teacher. Okay, cool. This is what it looked like in a classroom setting. So I figured if you guys have some exposure now, then you won't be so shell shocked when it shows up later. Anything I can do to get us all prepared for the future is really my goal. Okay, everybody, thank you so much for your time. And I'm here every day. Elle, question, jump in.
Sorry, Professor Laney. I was looking at the grades, and for some reason, 3 of the assignments, it's chapter 11. It says it's missing, and it was due November 14. 2 of them are 15 points, and 1 is 10. I just wasn't so sure.
Okay, well,
was...
first of all, you're saying it's November, so that's an error, right? It's either last semester or this following November. So let me fix. Okay. And then I got to fix the points on there.
Okay.
Yeah, you shouldn't be able to really have access to anything that's ahead of time or behind the time, right? So that is an error. I will definitely look at that right now. She says chapter 11. Yeah, you guys shouldn't have access to any of that right now. No, I'm not here to freak you out about things like that. So if you're looking on your grade sheet and says it's missing or it's late, I will fix that. You will be fine.
Okay,
But thank you for telling me. Always tell me, because that's annoying when you don't need to see it and you see it. Make sense?
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you for telling me. Always, always, always. I put that on my to-do list for the day. What else? Any other questions? All right, we'll see you guys next week. And no, thank you, Edith. Always come, always ask questions. I'm here. And Miguel, you can always ask questions even if you don't want to do it right now. I know some people are at work. Just email me later. Okay. You guys have a great day as well. Bye.